the notes, I have the template here because I created a new note and I'm going to open the template. So I'll make this window a little bit bigger so we can all see that. Is that better?
Yeah, I'm going to pause you for 1 second, Emmanuel. I forgot to mention I've started recording as soon as you opened up the web page or the window.
Oh.
So just to let everybody know.
Okay. All right. So can I go ahead, or you gonna let them know?
Yeah, go ahead. They can hear me. I just wanted to let everyone know that we've begun the recording.
So the disclaimer here, it's actually from the Prepare tools that will share with all the sites. For this site, you click on the beginning and it's open up all the tool. So we're gonna go step by step. The patient demographic are selected, and then we asked about the language here. And I made all these fields mandatory, meaning we want all the questions to be answered. So this question number 2 from, 1 second here, I'm navigating with the prepare form as I'm going with the EHR. On your prepare form, on your number 2, we want to ask about the race here. And then you can select, we have to select the race because this asterisk here means it's a mandatory field. So I made all the field mandatory. So what is your tribal affiliation? The user gonna have to answer. And then number 4 goes all the way to selecting any of the answer if you've been discharged. And then the number 5, we ask what language you're speaking. Number 6 is what about the gender, and if whether the other patient wants to be identified. And that's all the section you have on personal information under the prepare form. And then the next one, we go into family and home. And then on the family or home, once you click the boxes, open up the next question. So how many family members live that included in the home? You go ahead and tap the number. Now on the template here, it's not gonna let you put a number until when this is a template. So once we open it and click OK, you will enter that number there. And actually, depending on the site, that can be adjusted to give a field to enter the number right away. So there's no stopper. So I choose that one, we'll leave it the number so you can see that. Number 9, what is the housing situation? And then number 10, say, are you worried? Do you live with within the reservation? We go to number 10. I'm hitting all those with the equal so you can see what how to enter the data once we click OK. And then the next option will be your money and resources under your prepare form. And from there we go to the next question, same principle. Oh, sorry, I apologize for that. And then number 14, are you employed or part-time? And then we have the pain question. Number 16, we asked in the last 12 months, you have visited an emergency room, yes or no? Number 17 is asking again, what are you eligible for any benefit during the past year? So yes, we check that. The food is on number 18 on your form on the prepare. So we're all the way down to close to the last section, which is 19, yes. And then 20, so do you have access to safe outdoor? We say yes. And the last section here is the social and emotional health. So once we click on the check on question 21, say how often do you see or talk to people? You answer that question. You answer 22. We answer 23. 24. I'm saving you the headache and going through all the questions. I know we all have seen them. I want to save the time for question later. And here we have a disclaimer. So now pay attention to the questions. Let me go back. That was Number 3, well, let me do tribal affiliation. And then another one where I have the equal number of people in the family. So once I go ahead and click OK here, the system will tell me I'm missing some field. So let's see which one is that. I guess I made all of them required. So if you don't respond to all of them, you're never going to click OK to that, which is a safety feature. So let's go back. 1, 2, we have a yes, no. Of the zip code, yes, no. Okay. It's right here. Question number 6, I miss answering that. So the system will not let me click OK. So I have to answer. In the past, have you had someone in the household? I'm going to go ahead and say no. So now when I click OK, well, this one, no, no, and OK. So once I click OK, here comes the actual template with the answer that I've checked. Remember when we typed tribal affiliation, was needing a field in there? So you need to enter something in here, whatever your tribal affiliation or the person is, and the member of family member that lives together, we put that number here too. Also the zip code that is required, 95453. For example, and then I'd say not apply, no. And then once you do OK, here's the actual template, the way it looks now into your EHR system as a note. So I've also suggested that for the purpose of tracking whether or not this data has been collected on each one of the site I recommended to create the node title, which here I'm showing the one called nursing. We're going to create one for this site called PRAPARE. So that way we can actually run reports just by node title to know how many of those have been completed for that individual site. So I go ahead, so that when I go ahead and sign here, what we want to see, instead of the node title here showing nursing, I want to have that showing prepared. Yes. And that will be depending on either side of how they want it. They want it to be called prepare, or they want to call it Acorn. It's up to them. So I've not created one here. And here's the finished screening that was done for that, the data capture. So I'm done with the prepare presentation. Do you want me, Ephraim, to go ahead and talk about the PSI, or that's another presentation?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and go over those.
So the PSI, I don't know if you've seen that. Tell me if you see this on my screen. Or you still see the EHL?
No, we can see the worksheet.
You see the project strategy indicator?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to pull the goal with this project here was to be able to run this, all the numbers, have the data into your system every time you want to see any of those indicators. So what we did here, and that's part of this presentation, gonna do this. So I went to the presentation of the tier 1 grantee, why this we have to do this, capture the data for the indicator. So the process is specifically included to gather data from the EHR for all active Indian and Alaska Native patients within the past 2 years on obesity, commercial tobacco use, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. So on here was actually the how to get and to create the actual template. And once I go through the presentation, I'm going to pull the iCare. And this one is done through iCare. So any site with RPMS, you should have your iCare also loaded. If you're not, just request that from your site manager, then load that on your desktop. And I went to the stage of creating a panel, which is the first one. You make sure you name it, and that's the name here, panel name. I call this one IAIN BMI greater than 25. And I'd say for the last 2 years for the description. And we'll make sure we select Indian Alaska Native in here, and here the body mass index that we want to capture. And the time frame is showing here my last 2 years. So if you look on the left side here, you're actually selecting the ad hoc search to be able to give you access to pull the data that way. The second screen will show the BMI greater than 30, same principle. And then on the range, which you change the denominator here and have it show you some filters for BMI greater than 30. We want to be specific on that. And the third one, see on that, we want to do greater than 1 or equal to 1. Greater than or equal to 1 under this visit that we want to capture, because we want to see that on the past 2 year visit. So that's one measure. Here's for tobacco use, same principle. We put a tag to make sure that we have a tobacco user. We want that, what is accepted or proposed. We want to capture that. And again, on that measure, we go down to the topic itself under the ad hoc search, which has to be tobacco use. And we want to select all this indication, whether the education that's going to be performed on the anatomy complication, whatever education we're doing on those patients, we want to capture that. And then you have the diagnosis tag for the diabetes. So we have the diabetes, either accepted or proposed. We want to capture that. And the beneficiary here at the bottom showing Indian Alaska Native. Same thing on the obesity. We select the obesity through the diagnosis tag. We have our patient population. And we have the A1C, same principle. We select the A1C on the taxonomy and the lab that you want to run and capture. This one wanted to be greater than 13 on that range. And then A1C that's lower than, less than 5. And we have also calculated the median A1C at 9.5. And patient that had A1C at this level 5.4 to 6.4. Here's the taxonomy and the filter for the lab range. And the next one is the blood pressure of greater than 130 to 80. Again, we select the blood pressure and then add a filter. So we have the native here, American Heart beneficiary, and then we select all this range on the problem where we have to have the 2 years range plus all the problems that are related to cholesterol. So they're all listed here. And we want the status to show chronic, subacute for that one too. And here it is in clear, okay? The CVD, same principle. Under the taxonomy, you had the PA category known for the CVD, multiple diagnoses, and we capture all the diagnoses. And this one is for stroke. And that's it. I know I was going a little bit faster on that, but again, if you have any question on iCare, we can look at those. Now I'll show you what the eye care result looks like. So this is the actual reports that you're going to have once everything is completed. This is the A1C 5.7 to 6.4, the BMI 25, the BMI greater than 30, the blood pressure 130 to 180, the CVD, the DM, the obesity, stroke, and tobacco. So now once you run this report, you only run them once, and they into your eye care. And anytime you have them, the requirement that you've set up are there, and the system will give you the correct numbers at any given time you want that. And here are the number of patients we have on each one. And you can open those, which I'm not going to do here. Since this is a live system, we have live patients, so I'm not going to show them out there. But this is what you have on your system. So that will conclude my presentation on the PSI and the PRAPARE, and I'm ready for any question.
Thank you, Emmanuel. We really appreciate that. So awesome presentation. I'd like to remind everyone that Emmanuel is available for TA requests. Do you take those by email, or how do you want them to reach out to us first?
Yeah, they reach out to Drew, to the IT department, and he forward those to me.
Okay, cool. And we'll put that in the chat box, and I'll be sure to send that out to our team to get back to you guys. So I may have missed it. I'm sorry.
We do have a chat in the chat box, Ephraim.
Yeah. Any question on the chat? What's the chat? Let me see. I see one question.
So the question was, how were you able to capture the average A1C?
So again, good question. Let me pull. What's my average A1C? Oops. Average. Trying to pull the medium. So we're on the A1C for where is that graph? Here. Nope. So we run the lowest A1C and the max A1C and divided it to have them. The average was 9.5 and run the A1C for greater than 9.5. Let me see here if I can show you the screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So here we have the A1C. I believe this one here, the lower A1C and the highest one to get the average. So we took the lower and the max one from the side, and you have a number for that average, and you run patients that have an A1C that's lower or equal to 9.5, between 9 and 9.5, and that was how we get the number. Did I answer the question?
I think so. If there is still something to clarify at the end, we can take the rest of the questions at the end, but I would like to move on to the RPMS presentation, and we'll have all those questions at the end. That way we give the same amount of question time to everyone, and we don't run one a little bit too long. I will attach the link for the Acorns TA request, and you can just send it to us. We'll get it to Drew or to the IT department, and we'll have Emmanuel receive it in the correct form, should you need a TA request. Also, as a quick disclaimer, I think I may have left it out before I started recording, but we did get permission from the the National Association of Community Health Centers to modify the PRAPARE tool. And that's how we ended up making it tribal specific, and we got it into the systems for y'all to be able to utilize and help out our communities. So let me really quickly attach this into the chat, and that's a link to our TA request form, and you can send those over to Julie, and we'll make sure that you get your TA request handled. So with that, I'd like to pass it on over to Mr. Kite Castillo and have him take over.
Hey guys, Kite Castillo, EHR Integrated Care Coordinator for CRIHB. Just a quick disclaimer, or anyway, I'm going to show you guys the PRAPARE tool that NextGen developed, or at least I believe this is version 2 of what they initially developed for PRAPARE. Just a quick disclaimer, the original the test database that I was working on got corrupted, so a lot of the work that I did to customize it for CRIHB got erased, so I have to rebuild it. Nonetheless, I will be able to at least show you what the template looks like, how you can customize it, and as well as the reporting, the built-in reporting that NextGen developed. Ultimately, it's a crystal report. Actually, no, it is an EHR built report that you can import into EHR to extract, to run and extract. Nonetheless, what I'm planning on doing is rebuild everything to the CRIHB PRAPARE version. I will export that out in a zip file and then provide it to Ephraim so that he can share it out to everybody else. Not only that, I will also be working on a report for you guys to run the PSI. And then there's ultimately multiple ways you guys can accomplish that, either if you want to run it manually in EHR, or if you have a DBA, or if you guys have a SQL guy that's able to run queries, I can provide the queries as well so that you guys can customize it to your environment, because not everybody's environments are the same. Everybody has different data results and all that stuff. So nonetheless, I will provide all of that to her so that he can send it out to everybody else here. So without further ado, I will share my screen and I will show you the PRAPARE template. Can everybody see that? Yeah?
Yes, sir.
EHR? All right, so everybody that is using NextGen, obviously we are in EHR. We pulled up our test patient here. At least I created a brand new one just for the presentation today. And ultimately you create an encounter and then you pull up this PRAPARE assessment tool that NextGen developed. Oh, like I said, this is version 2 what NextGen of how NextGen created the PRAPARE tool. So we're just going to click on our templates, click on PRAPARE assessment tool, and ultimately it's just going down the line, answering the same questions just like Emmanuel presented earlier. Again, this is the basic stock PRAPARE tool that was created. This doesn't have any of the CRIHB specific or the tribal specific questions, but I will show you what I will eventually have to do to recreate those questions. But really, it's the same basic flow, right? A lot of the information on here, some of them, at least demographic-wise, do get pre-populated based off the patient's demographics. Meaning, when you click and create a chart in EHR or NextGen, you fill out their demographic profiles from their name, address, race, ethnicity, community codes, as well as their UDS information, homeless status, family size and information. And a lot of that does get funneled into the template itself. So going down the line, we're just going to kind of go through this. So we have, again, first, last name, date of birth, age. From there, we'll go down to personal characteristics. You have your ethnicity, again, that's pre-populated. Your race, that is pre-populated. preferred language, and then from there, fill out apologies for my dog. And then it just starts asking you the questions that you can then start answering to. If you've ever been discharged by the armed forces, at any point, were you in the past 2 years seasonal migrant worker? Then you have your family members. How many family members do you live in your house? Or if you choose not to answer, you have your address. Is your housing situation okay? I live in my own home, for example. Are you worried about your housing? Money resources. Again, this gets pre-populated from the family size and income from their demographics. But if it is not filled in there, you can actually fill that in. The poverty level, you can choose what their poverty level is. Highest level of education. Your current work status. Main insurance. Say maybe you have private insurance. Details. If in the past year, if your family members have been unable to get any of the following, if you do answer yes to one of these, you could ask for details. Lack of transportation, and then you give more details into what. Social and emotional health. Now, if you notice that when I click on some of these box fields, it gives you a list, or it pops up a list. These lists are actually can be configured if you want to change it, or at least in terms of the CRIHB version, we can change these to include additional information or reword some of these through a system practice template that NextGen does provide for this. Stress. And then if there's any more additional questions, the past year, we'll say no, no, no. And then ultimately, you can calculate a score. Now, the score one kind of threw me off. I don't know if PRAPARE actually does calculate a particular score in interpretation, but nonetheless, when you click on calculate, this score is based off of how you guys actually want to count certain questions. For example, race, or for example, if you've been discharged in the armed forces and stuff like that. Some of these questions through the system practice template that's part of this package that comes out of the box for NextGen can be included in your score. And then on top of that, the score itself, you guys can modify or customize the actual interpretation of how it can be. There isn't one, at least out of the box, the way at least this is configured, there isn't a preset interpretation for it. So that'll just be blank. But if you guys do decide to add, say, whatever the score may be, you could pre-attach an interpretation, and then from there you could add additional comments. Once you do that, you just simply click on save, and then from there you can generate a document that will pre-populate all of the questions that you've answered, and it'll actually save that into the patient's chart. And it's ultimately that easy. Now, advancing this a little bit more, NextGen did create a NextPen version of the PRAPARE tool. So depending on whether you guys are answering, having the patients fill out a piece of paper and then having staff pre-answer it, if you are utilizing the NextPen feature, NextGen does have a NextPen form along that you can give to the patient. They'll fill it out along with the pen, mark all the answers, and that will automatically get pre-populated into EHR. And ultimately, it'll flow directly into this field, and then ultimately you guys can save it and generate the same chart note. So moving forward to reporting. Now, like I said, NextGen did create an EHR report for this that you can import into the system. I saved ours under management reports, literally called PRAPARE. You run that, and that will ultimately run against the data that has been saved in EHR. Now I can, depending on how this goes, I believe this pulls everything, but since this is a system generated, an EHR generated report, you do have some filters that you can set this to. If you want diagnoses, or maybe you're only looking at a certain subset based off of fields, you can go by provider and set by encounter dates of when it was run. So you can narrow this down. Either that, or from this report, you can actually export it to Excel and run your modifications that way to see what kind of social determinants that you guys are wanting to track. Let's see here. As I mentioned, to create, or at least what I'm planning on doing, is to create the CRIHB specific version. Within NextGen, under template editor, you pull up the prepare _ questionnaire template. And then from here is just a matter of adding labels. Well, you'll have to copy it first, but it's just a matter of adding new labels and adding new data fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, to be able to capture that same subset of information. And then from there, either, again, you could use SQL to run the data, or you could use SQL reporting services to help automate your data, depending on how you guys want to track your social determinants. Again, I can provide all of that information once I have it rebuilt for you guys. Any questions?
We do have one question.
Yeah.
How will this work in RPMS if we fill out a paper form?
So before we hop into that, if you guys want, I want to share with you guys what it would look like on a paper form, since we haven't actually seen that yet. And then while I'm sharing screen, maybe Emmanuel can take that question, but let me share my screen really quickly here. Can you guys see it? Should be the CRIHB logo with the prepare tool. I hope so. I can't see you guys anymore. Okay, so this is what it looks like really quickly, and so it has been modified. If you go down to the bottom, you'll see that anything with the little star here, that's how we've modified it to be a little bit more AIAN specific, and so everything else with the little star has already been there. So if you're familiar with the prepare tool, a lot of the questions remain the same. So we added some like race, ethnicity questions a little bit, some zip code, a highest level of education is the same. There's our disclaimer that it's owned by the right people. Healthcare coverage was a new one that we adapted. Anyway, so this is what it would look like if you were filling it out on a paper form. And then Emmanuel, if you want to take it from there.
Sure, Ephraim. So the form I showed on the EHR is actually it was built based on that paper form Ephraim just showed you. So you have to have the template created into EHR, and you're going to create a note title. You want to call it ACON or prepare, whichever name you want to give it. So anyone completing this form, which, depending on the site, I'm not sure it's going to give it MA or who will be collecting the data for the CHR, they will just have to go to the EHR, select that patient, and upload that information. I actually try to mimic it the same way it is on paper, not the fancy way Scott had it on the NextGen side. So that's how you will get it. So now if you want to keep the paper form and scan that into your system, well, that's another way of doing it. It will be up to the site. Or you want them to document that straight into the EHR, yes, then they have to log on and complete that under the note into the EHR. Did that answer the question, Julie? She's on mute.
She's on mute.
So that question was from Ms. Jamali Austin. Did that answer your question, dear?
Oh, yeah, so that I thought too.
Hi, Vanya. Yes, I think so. We basically, well, we can scan it. Is that what you said? We can scan it with a title name?
Why do you want to scan it? It's already created into the EHR for you to
Because
check.
then we have to enter it in. We have to enter in. So if people fill it out by hand, because I'm guessing it's going to be mostly outreach team that is doing this. It's not going to be medical.
Oh,
I'm not sure how that's going to work. So if outreach team is filling this out for patients, then we don't want to re-enter it again. We want to be able to scan it and be on the system.
well, one thing to keep in mind, and maybe we do the scanning, you want to run any report or who completed it, we just have to create a note title with the name prepared on, but you will not know. Well, I think even on this one, you can search any of the subtitle. Let's say, for example, you want to see what is the, look at anything on the demographic, personal characteristics of family and home, or money and resources. Everything would be just jumping in just that one form that is completed. Then you have to look at each form individually. So again, I think that will be a process thing to decide per site. If you want to do it that way, well, we'll just make sure we create a note title, and then you can run a note title on any patient that have had that one completed. And when they're scanning the paper, they scan the paper under that note title, and that's the only way you would know that the form was done in scanning. You will see that scan form in there. But you're right, the outreach people do not have access to the EHR to use the template. Now they can do it after the fact when they collect the information and upload that in the system. So depending on what you want to pull, but that was the way why the template was built.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
The other question I have is on the training, they said that they prepare tools. Some clinics have focused on some areas, so they don't do the whole questionnaire. Is it possible to adjust that? Because it seems like a lot of questions, even for our community, we do a lot of data collection. Can that prepare to be adjusted even more, specific to what we want for our community?
Before Ephraim, you can jump in here and answer, but I'm not familiar with why the section that were built in the form he showed earlier today by CRIHB, if that's what they want you to, they kind of want you to collect, or you can change what information you want to collect. That I'm really not aware, and I don't know. But we have a personal characteristic function. Are you saying that you don't want to be answer all the question in there, or when you look at the family and home, you don't want to answer all the questions? They got about 4 or 5. Or the money and resources. I don't know what question they want you to answer or provide, and which one you can do without. So that would be.
So for now, I think we'd want to stick with this form because we have gotten permission for this particular form. And I think if you would want to modify it in the future, you might want to, seek permission from them. They're really cool. I'm sure that, I'm sorry, I'm getting a weird feedback. So I'm sorry if you guys are hearing that too, but if you're not, I'll just continue. So yeah, their mission really, or their purpose, is to really help people. And so if adapting their form is how it's going to be the most impactful, I'm sure they'd be receptive to that. But for our project and for our purposes, I think capturing standard form for everybody would be the best. And if some information tended to be more useful than others, maybe we would further modify it in other years. I don't know if Farine might have something to add to that for evaluation purposes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, no, I don't have anything to add right now, but.
Thank you. I hope that answered the question. Do we have any other questions?
I did answer the question earlier today from Emmanuel again about, I think that was Marjorie, and Lord Jamali has the same question about how do I come up with the median of the A1C. So like I said, I took the maximum, which is the highest one, 15, and then the lowest, which is like 4.1, added them and divided to give me an average, 9.5, and did a measure for the 9.5 A1C. Then you can run the report to see how many patients fall down to that.
Okay. Mr. Kite Castillo, are you still on the line? Oh, there you are. Sorry. So, do we have any questions for Kite also, or not at the moment? Okay. Well, we'll see if anyone.
I have a
Go
question.
ahead.
This is Jennifer Burnett. Kite, do you have a timeline of when the rebuilt template will be available for us?
Probably by I'll say June 5th. I should have it. I'm gonna start working on it. I started working on it already, but I'll probably get it finished by the end of next week.
Okay.
Thank you. And I have a question for both RPMS and NextGen. If someone was in the middle of collecting something and they needed to exit the template form, are you able to exit it right away, or do you have to finish the form before you exit it?
I'll go ahead and answer for EHRPMS. You can exit the form anytime and come back and reopen and continue where you left it. So.
NextGen side, it's the same, pretty much the same answer as well. Even if you have the template open and then you started filling out some questions and you needed to leave again, when you try to exit or even just exit the patient's chart, it will ask you if you want to save or not. Just make sure you click on yes, and then you could at least leave midway, come back and fill it out again later.
I'll add a disclaimer on my first answer. The only change I will have to do on this one here is to not make the subsection, and what I call subsection is based on the actual paper form. You see how we have the personal and characteristic, and then the family and home, money and resources, and social and emotional health. I'll have to make them individually, not make them mandatory. Because if I make them mandatory, the system will not let you leave. So, but yeah, it's a simple fix. Just removing the option of do mandatory, and you can do them individually and stop and restart. So, good question.
All right. Thank you so much, folks. Any other questions or any other, it could be to the Acorns team. If you guys have any Prepare tool specific questions relevant to this training, you can ask us those now also. Keep in mind, you can always submit a TA request, whether it's for Kite or Emmanuel or the Acorns team. The link's in the chat box, or just email us. We'll send it out and help you guys out.
So this is Jennifer. So when is the paper copy? When are we going to get a copy of that?
I can send it over. I'll double check, but I can send it over right after the call by the end of the week for sure if you guys need it sooner.
Yeah, I just want to see the questions.
Yeah, I can share screen with you right now if you want.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was about to say. From you on mute, if you're speaking, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So here's the questions. We finished a little bit early, so we have time to run through this. This is what it would look on paper, and all those templates are how they would look like on your EHR records. And I can send this stuff over to you guys. I'll have to double check, but I can send them to you guys by the end of the week for sure. So, like I mentioned earlier, these little stars, these asterisks, those are modifications that we've made. And then other ones that have the little plus sign, those are the exact same that they were from the original Prepare tool. So we've added some race ethnicity questions here. Feel free to interject wherever you guys might have questions, or if we just wanted to browse through, I'll go ahead and browse all the way through. It's not that long. It is a little bit involved, but they are not incredibly time consuming. But we do have this here, so some of the questions may trigger uncomfortable or uneasy feelings. So if that's the case, speak to someone who can help deal with the feelings. Please ask the person who's administering the questionnaire to provide you with the necessary contact information. So if a referral of some sort that I'm sure your clinics may have at their disposal or available. If you guys need help with that, then submit a TA request and we'll try to find something for you. Or I guess we will find something for you. These are already here, right? If you guys want me to slow down, so they go down this and then they start at the top and go back down. They go to the next page. That was their format, so that's what we used. We added a zip code question. And then for Jamali's question earlier on modifying it further, this is the contact for modifying it. If you wish to do that, you can reach out to them. So this is the insurance question. Some of our population doesn't follow typical or standard insurance. So sometimes we'll get answers like, what's your insurance? And it'll be like, I don't know, IHS or something. So we try to make it fit a little bit more closely. Here's another one we added, which was during the past year, what was the total combined income for you and your family members you lived with? This information will help us determine if you're eligible for any benefits, and that is something that you guys may have available to them. This is another one we added here. Am I going too quickly or is this okay?
Good.
Okay. Do you have access to safe outdoor space, including parks, sidewalks, trails, green spaces? So that definitely applies to our grant as we're trying to increase safe and accessible routes. Here's another one we added here. That might be a tough one right now, considering stay-at-home orders. And I think that's it.
I have a question for the providers that are on the line as well, and for you also, Ephraim and Fareen. This is Julie. I am the health education specialist on this. So when you guys do administer this to your clients, you'll also give us some feedback as well, right? And let us know how they felt towards these questions, or because a lot of these questions are already questions that you guys are asking folks, right? When you're doing intake as they come into the clinic.
We ask a few of them, but not nearly as in depth as this questionnaire is.
So one of the things that we're gonna do towards the end of the grant year, which is coming up pretty soon now, is do a kind of like a visioning of years 2 through 5. So something that you can find with this information, even if it's like not totally complete yet, if you don't have 10% of your patient population, or if you have, if it's housing or whatever the case is, or culture. If we just pick any one of these questions, right, like healthcare coverage, for example, seems to be like the question that is the most problematic. That could be something that you identify as a barrier or as a place that needs more work. And then when you fill out this form, which we'll get out to you guys, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but it would be something that you can really vision for years 2 through 5 and address that problem and make the biggest impact. So this is the first of its kind, really. It's a pilot program, and we're hoping that it's beneficial to everyone. So hopefully that helps out with your communities and having in-depth knowledge for your social determinants of health.
Oh, is that for us? Well, oh, great. So bring it back here and let's look at it, because I think we really,
Miss Marjorie, you guys are on the speaker right now.
sorry.
Can I have you mute?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Julie.
Julie, this is Emmanuel. To answer your question earlier about those on the call about the questions, yeah, these are not practically the clinical question that I ask on every visit. A few things while we have some emotional, which are the behavioral question that I ask, but they're different. So these are more into the social aspect of that. The demographic one, the name, the address, not already into the system. They're not being asked, they collected up front, but yeah, this is totally, I don't think we have those questions all the time at the clinic. Mm-hmm. It's why, from Jimoli point, this will be the community representative, folks going out in the community, spending the time and asking this question to some of the folks out there. So just an FYI on that. Kathy has a question there, if I want to see that.
Yeah, so Kathy asked or mentioned that she can't remember if there is a place for the provider to take notes. A lot of yes, no's, and there might need to be a place to capture nuances. So that could be something we might look into in the future. We did leave a little bit of space, at least on the paper one. And let me.
Yeah, Kathy, you're right. There's no space between questions to put comments. And I think that will be going back to the question on who will be doing this, collecting this information. Is it a provider, or we just want somebody to have those, straightforward question, yes, no question, and that's it. They choose not to answer. So that would depend on who wants to collect that and what other information you think would be relevant if they want to make their own comment, and if yes or no, why. So.
Yeah, so thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it, and it might be something that we look into in the future if that's what ends up being identified as improvement that we need to make. So we kind of left this space. I should be sharing screen here. That you can take a little bit of notes on it, of course, but maybe you know, 6 or 7 questions might need note taking, and that isn't enough space. But for now, a lot of the checking is kind of what we're looking for, and it is something that could become that we can build off of, really. But for now, yeah, we didn't leave any space for those types of comments. So the only ones that has, you know, fill in the blank type of notes are here with what's your tribal affiliation. I think there might be 1 or 2 more. How many family members?
And then the zip code.
Yeah, I was looking for that one. There's a zip code question. If yes, how many times? So not very many, but thank you for your feedback. Do we have any other questions from anybody in the audience? Okay, I'll give it another minute here. And if not, then I think that kind of sums it up. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Again, this is being recorded, and we'll upload it to our YouTube channel as soon as we get a chance here. And I will send you guys the paper copy as soon as I can. And remember that the Acorns team is here and available for you guys with any questions that you may have on your project. Emmanuel is available for TA requests as well. So is Kite. I've inserted the TA request form that you can send over to Julie with any questions that you have on these topics, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. A lot of us are working from home, so if it takes a tad bit longer, I apologize ahead of time, but we will do our best to get to you guys as soon as we can. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.